So we're going to talk about, if I can find that page. Tips for introducing the curriculum to your students and to CI when applicable. um, sorry. Okay, so we have a lot to cover, and I'm gonna and of course, just a reminder, this is being recorded. You just heard it being recorded, but the slideshow will also be recorded. So some things on the slideshow you might want to refer to later when you are introducing students to Voces. So we're going to talk about how you can add students and how you can introduce students to Voces, introduce students to CI if applicable, and some other cool resources that may or may not have been mentioned this week, but I just want to make sure that you know about them because there's a lot in Voces as we are discovering. So there are different ways to add students, and we'll just go over the 4 different ways kind of quickly, but just know that we're always there when it gets time for you to add your students. We're there to help. So number 1, you can just enter them manually, and I'll just really quickly show you what that looks like. And you guys are seeing my screen now in Voces, right? Okay, just making sure. So you just you log in to whatever title you want to add students to. You go to the teachers panel, you click class management, and you may or may not see classes, depending if you've created them before, but you just create a new class. You can name it whatever makes sense to you, and then click create. And then you'll see it appear at the bottom, and then you click it, click add view students, and then click quick add, and just enter them that way. I'm adding you, Erica. And that's it. And when you're done adding them, you click on ID cards and it will show you this page, which you can print and cut them out and hand them out. You can also do that, these pre-formatted emails if you want to email everyone their class and user ID. No matter what, this is always there for you to, refer to and get their IDs from, because students will lose them. But it's a really simple, easy way to do that. The next way is with a CSV. That's when you have basically a spreadsheet that you can upload into the platform. So to do that, you just do the same thing as before. You create a class and you call it whatever you want. I'm feeling very unimaginative. And then you click on that class. Let me just get this. Okay. You click on the new class that you created. You click add view students again. And this time you click on CSV add, and then you follow the CSV wizard. And I had one handy, so I'm going to select it from my computer and upload it. And I already know it's in this format, like first name is in the first column, last name is in the second, user ID is in the third. If you leave the user ID blank, it will just auto generate them. And then you do step 3, you can kind of get a preview and finalize. And now I just uploaded a class of 4 into that class. So that's super simple. And again, we can always walk you through it and help you with the specifics when you get to it. And I should open up chat, but and then connecting through the LMS. So that came up in the Q&A or the survey form. Someone was asking if we do connect to LMS or LMSs, and we do. We connect to Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, and Microsoft Teams. Each one has its little nuances, but the main thing is that you go to our website, and actually I'll show you on a new tab. And if you go to support and then technical support, and then click on link with LMS, you'll see the steps that you need to take to link your LMS with Voces. Once you get it set up to link, it's so easy to set up your students. You just go into the class management like I was just doing, and you will see when you're logged in through your LMS, you will see a sync button, and you click it, you select the classes you want to sync into Voces, you do that. Once your students are synced or linked into Voces, then all they have to do to log in is basically I don't want to, they just have to, when they get to the login page, Sorry, as I mentioned before, I have way too many tabs open. Can you guys see this page? Like this new one? Okay.
No, right
Um,
now we're just looking at your spreadsheet or your slideshow.
oh, okay. Oh yeah, I can't. Okay, it's an incognito window. But either way, when students log in or when you log in with your LMS, all you got to do is just choose the LMS and then go through the steps of logging in through it, and you don't do the class and user ID on the left. And that means that students do not need a class and user ID, which is one less thing they will forget. And it's just like, it's a wonderful, seamless way, once you get it all set up, to have them log in the first time or the 100th time. And then the next way to get your students logged in is to have them self-register. And this is actually the page that I mentioned earlier that you might want to refer to later if you do choose to use this method. Basically, you create your classes, as I've already showed you how, and then you go into settings and you enable um, student self-registration, which is already enabled, and then you give them this link or this QR code, and then you walk them through these directions, which is just entering their class ID, which is your class ID. You have this one class ID for everyone. Do not give them your user ID though. Everyone has a unique user ID. Then they'll enter their first and last name, and then they'll choose the class. This is also information you need to tell them. And then they'll need to write down their login, which they will immediately lose. And then they can click right on the screen to log in then. And you can always get their login info from class management in your title. So it's all very, you know, like all the tools are there for you to get your students set up. If you have any questions when the time comes, obviously just give us a call, email us, we'll help you. But there's lots of different ways depending on your needs. Okay, so introducing students to Voces. I mean, it's super important, just like you when you first logged into Voces, I am guessing, but maybe not all of you, but many of you were probably a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit, like unsure of what to do. Your students are going to feel the same way. So one of the first things that you should do is, before you get your students logged in, is to set up customizations. And we talked a little bit about some of these things earlier this week. But one of the things you need to do is decide how you will assess, because one of the ways that we recommend you assessing is to use a long story. If you're using the R story series, the CI series, the longer stories within each unit can be used as assessments because they revisit or recycle the previously taught structures from that unit. So if you were to, for instance, decide to make this long story the assessment for that unit, you would want to make it so that they don't see it ahead of time, just to be on the safe side. So to do that, you go into the editor and you just basically put an apple next to that section. So I'm going to find that section in the table of contents, and then I'm going to make it teacher only and put an apple. Now the students will not see any of the pages within that section, but when I assign the pages, like when we get to the assessment, I can assign those pages even with the apple there. And they will still, like, they will be able to access those pages once assigned. So you could do this, and you maybe should do this for the whole, I mean, you kind of decide on how you want to approach it, but it's a good idea to hide what you may use as an assessment. So keep that in mind. You can also, as again was mentioned before, you can put teacher only apples on like future units. So that will just really diminish the places students can see and go and explore. And I think that's good for just kind of holding their attention, especially for those students who, I mean, for better or worse, because it's not a terrible thing, but like to work ahead. But if you just really want to narrow their attention right where you want it, then I would recommend putting those apples on there before you have them log in. And then similarly, preview stories, and that's kind of I think it's a little obvious, but it's also important. And it's very important to mention. Preview stories, if there are stories that you don't want your students to read for whatever reason, you can put the apple on there before they log in and they won't even know existed. consider the teacher notes on pages. That's our teacher edition. You know, people ask if we have teacher editions. Well, it's right there online. Like anything with the yellow border is visible only to you. And consider some of the notes there. Sometimes the teacher only sections on a page are transcripts for videos and other material that you may want to give students access to. You can always do this at a later time, but it's nice to kind of like get a feel for that before students are logged in case you want to adjust anything. But to be clear, anything with a yellow box is not visible to students when they log in. So they would not see all those notes because they don't pertain to them. But in this case, like this slideshow version of the story is visible only to teachers. So you might want to remove that if you want students to have that version. And yeah, and just think about what you'll project in class and what you'll have students do and, you know, set it up accordingly. Again, you can always make adjustments later, but it's nice to get like a baseline down before students log in. Another thing to do, and I've like totally lost my chat, so I don't know if I'm missing comments, but
I've got chat under control, Aaron.
okay, thanks. Another thing that you should do is demo the platform. You know, project your screen. You can log in as a student, which actually I'm going to do right now. Oh, it's going to mess up my, okay. So I'm logging in as a student and you can do the same thing. Sorry, that I did very badly on that activity. So if you log in as a student, this is a little sloppy because I had changed some of that stuff. But if you log in as a student, then you know you can project it on the screen. You can go over what they'll see, what each of these icons mean. And yes, I will show how to log in as a student in a minute because I kind of just did that quickly. But you can just basically explain the organization of the chapters. If you have hid anything or a lot of things, you will like the student version that you log into will also show those hidden pages. So what you'll show is what they'll see when they log in. And there's also, and I'll get like, and this comes up in a minute, but there's a try it out sample activity page that you could assign to yourself, like I have here, and do as a class before they do it on their own. Or you could just find an activity that you want to do for them or with them on the board and just do it with them so that they understand like what save and submit is and like all the little like nuances of the platform. It will be a little rocky because it's always a little rocky to get used to a new platform or a new website. But the more you can hold their hand and kind of coach them through it, the better. And really demoing it is ideal. So let me log out and actually log back in as a teacher. If I can remember my password. Oh, wait, maybe this is it. Yeah. I'm gonna go into this title. But if you go to, I forgot that there was a student view, Chris.
Yeah,
Hey,
but that's not actually logged in as a student. It just views it as the
okay.
student would see it. So in this
So it's
page's case, it would hide the teacher only stuff.
okay. So, oh, that's nice. And I kind of forgot about that. Like, so if you were wanting to project to this page and like read the story with them and you didn't want them to see the teacher only material on the page, you could do student view.
Oh, nope, that's
Oh,
showing the
never mind.
simplified view.
Okay. Anyways, so to log in as a sample student, you go into class management and every class that you create includes a sample student with it. So I was logging in, well, I actually was logging into a different title, but you just click on the class and you click add view students and you'll find the sample student like I did here. And then you click edit and you can just grab that login and you can even edit that login. Like I had actually, I had called it workshop. I don't know if I can have, and then you can just log in as that student, just like you would log in as you as a teacher, if that makes sense. So it's super simple. And but if you forget how to get there, you can always email us. And this was like, these are kind of just examples, but as you all probably do as just, have always done kind of thing, just giving clear instructions on expectations or giving clear expectations. That's a little bit poorly worded on my slide. But are you going to accept late assignments? Are you going to allow the use of phones? Um, you know, what surrounding limitations or expectations are you going to have for students using Voces? Consider some of those. And maybe if any of you have used, and like this actually goes with this whole presentation, if any of you have anything to add that you have done, please put it in the chat. Because I think like all of us have different experiences, and I don't know, I'm sure that some of you have done some really cool things to introduce students to Voces in the past. And then give advice on what to do when they get stuck with their home, if they're in class. I mean, we definitely have teachers who call in the middle of class with like students unable to log in, and we help them and we hear the whole class. It's funny. And I feel like many students know David's name because David is usually the one helping out the teacher. So you can always call Voces. They should probably call you, but we've also had students call us. Okay, so assign the try it out activities. We have these wonderful activities. It's actually all on one page that just show literally almost every type of activity that the students will encounter. And so if you assign this to students, then they're going to have to do a multiple choice activity, and they're going to do a survey question. They're going to have to listen to audio and like make sure that they can, turn up the volume and that everything works in that regard. They will do a matching activity, which is a little like, the first time that I did the matching activity, I probably tried to drag and drop it or something like that. But then you realize that you click and click the other side. And so they're going to go through that process, and it's going to just help get them acquainted with the functioning of the platform. Fill in the blank, and this is an auto-graded activity, so when they press submit, they'll be able to come back here and see what they got right or wrong. It mentions that they have to type exactly how it appears in the word bank. All these different types of activities. One of the most important ones, and this one's a little bit, takes a little getting used to, but one of the most important ones is the recording, which is blocked, which I mentioned this in the chat, but sorry. And I know I have to log out and log back in. If you see this notice, then that usually means that you have not, or your district has not like signed the privacy agreement, or even if they have, you need to go to settings as I just did and turn the recording and photo prompts on for students. And then when you log out and log back in, it will be there. So it happens like all the time for me because I have so many different accounts and I forget with all these different books, and it's by book. So if you do it in one book, you need it, and you're using a different title, you need to do it in the other title too. But now it will not be there. And now if I assign this to students, they'll be able to listen to the audio and record their voices. And so the recording is probably one of the, just it's a little different on every device, but it's possible on any device. And it's a really good thing for students to just kind of work out and figure out on the practice activity versus on an assignment that actually counts. So that's the whole purpose of this. You could have them do it. I mean, I've heard wonderful things about like most of the questions are silly, but some of the audio questions are like can actually spur some can actually create some responses that are in depth and meaningful. So like you get to know your students is I guess my point. Like I remember a teacher telling me that some of the responses of this like very shy girl were just like so interesting and enlightening for her when she went to grade the practice activity. So and it's fun also, like some of the questions are funny. So if you do this as a class, you might get a laugh or two. The other one is another like resource that's in all of our titles is the next page in the table of contents for that. And that's why is learning another language important? And this is just a great topic to discuss at the beginning of any language class, just to get people thinking, why they're there and what possible reasons that they could be there. So there's a activity. Well, first of all, this video is a nice collection of different students from all over the world, saying why, like how learning another language has helped them. So it's inspiring and just really sweet. And then these questions have them reflect on why they're there, like the students themselves, your students. And it might be something that you could come back to later in the year and see if maybe some of their reasons for learning another language have changed. Maybe they're in your class for better career opportunities because someone told them that, but maybe they stay in your class because, oh my gosh, like this is just so cool and I'm making new friends and I love it. Um, so yeah, there's that. And I know I'm running out of time. Key to successful use of Voces is using less restrictions at first. So I would really recommend don't make a hard deadline in the assignment. Don't limit submissions or restrict students to a page like from the get-go if you are feeling like they're taking some time to get used to the platform. Keeping it open, keeping it a little bit more malleable in their experience is going to allow them to figure things out. And then slowly you can add those assignment restrictions in, maybe one at a time, letting them know that like, oh, when you do this assignment tonight, like you won't be able to leave the page once you begin. That's a big one. It's a wonderful tool, but students have to get used to it. So just kind of keep that in mind. Yeah, completing activities together, like, and maybe have them log in onto their devices in class and do it yourself with them on the board. It can really help. And I'm totally running out of time and I feel like this isn't gonna, but okay. So introducing students to CI. There's a video on our, like right in that same section, called The Secret to Language Learning. It's by Profe Loco. It's silly because he is silly, but it's also really informative and it's geared towards students. So you could play the video and talk about it as a class. Justin's advice is to give a short lecture, 2 minutes, about what's involved in acquiring a language, and how students can be successful at it. And I love what he said to tell them is to listen with the purpose of understanding, and support them in this with gestures and questioning, etc. And I'm just kind of blowing through these slides. I was going to have Justin and Erica talk a little bit, but we're running out of time. Parent handout. This is in all of our titles, we have this, but if you log out and go to the Voces library, the digital curriculum page, and then to the title that you're working with, in supporting documents, there's a Voces parent information handout. It's very similar for all the titles, but like, geared toward that specific title or series. And I feel like this can help with buy-in from the parents. So if the student is like, oh, we're just like reading stories or something like that, this makes it look like this is like showing that there's a lot more than just, it's just, anyways, it can help with the buy-in. It can help explain what is happening in the class. And Erica's advice was explain, of course, how their brains are able to learn a new language the same as they learn their first language. So it's their job to listen and understand. And she had a little bit more that I didn't get to fit on this page, but basically to explain some of the science behind it is, I think, really helpful to some of the students. So it's like giving that logic behind it and validating it. Um, and then demo it. I don't know who was at Eric's and Justin and Erica's session yesterday where Eric was demoing German, but there is so much value in that aha moment that we get when we just experience CI. So, demo it a little bit and say that that's what you're doing and give them that aha moment. And I think you'll get some serious buy-in, even from the students who may have come from very grammar-based experiences, might be a little bit reluctant. Other cool resources really quickly, definitely dive into the appendix of the title or titles that you're working with. There are so many good things for students, like cool vocab lists. There's a survey that you can use with students at the end of the semester or year, asking them how they felt about the class, about the curriculum, etc. There are readers that you could just say, like in almost every title, there are readers in the table of contents that if you don't plan to use, oh, I forgot, I'm not logged in. If you don't plan to use the readers, with the class, you could just bring their attention to the readers and be like, hey, if you want to read on your free time or over the break or whatever, they're there. There's a search and print feature, which I do want to just show you just to make sure everyone has awareness of it. And the students will have it too. So if they go to tools and click search, they can type in whatever words there and it will show, the results. And then if they need to print, like, and this is a big one, like if there is a tech issue, as we all know there are, that they come up, and they have to like maybe take a screenshot or print the activity that they did in order to get credit and to prove that they did it, then they can do that, and they can print it by being on the page and clicking print, and then you guys probably don't see it, but it opens up like a print view, and they could save it as a PDF and email it to you or print it out, whatever works. But bring their attention to that. One other quick little thing that is just pretty amazing, speaking of tech issues, is that with all of the students that you have logged in, you can go and see their activity. And of course, I don't have a ton of activity. Let's see if I can find, oh, here. So this sample student logged in 2021. It's been a while. But I can see their last activity. And then once they get like more activity, you can like literally see like all the pages that they've been to. You can be like Big Brother if you need to be. You can hold them accountable in that way if you have to. And yeah, it's just a very powerful tool and a wonderful thing about it being online. And then last but not least, if a parent, if like, you want to include parents and get parents involved in the students learning, parents can actually log in as their student by just putting a -p after the user ID of the student's login. So you could let parents know about this, or let specific parents know about it, and that allows the parent to log in and view all the stuff that the student does, but it won't allow them to like actually submit work or do anything like that. So it's like a safe way for them to view what the students are doing. Okay. Um, and of course, thank you. And you can email us and all those other great things that you've been seeing. And we're having our Q&A at 1 p.m. today, not 12:50. And I will stop there.